How would you like to live a life where you felt as if the universe was working with you, helping you to live a happy, abundant and fulfilling life? In today's episode, I'll show you how to do just that. Every single person is powerful, perfect as they are. And I believe we all have a role to play in making this world a better place. My purpose is to help people step into their power. In the last episode, we explored living a life with passion and finding a sense of what our purpose is in life. It's the secret to living a happy, successful, joyous and fulfilling life. However, I think there's a dimension which takes things to a whole new height. That's the understanding that we are all spiritual beings on a journey of self-enlightenment and expansion. Throughout our lives, we're presented with a myriad of opportunities to develop and grow. Many opportunities pass us by. We're so focused on the step immediately in front of us that we fail to look up and see the richness which surrounds us. To embrace life in its fullest sense requires us to be prepared to step out of our comfort zone, to consider things which feel new, challenging, and at times beyond belief. I'm reminded of something that Art Geiser often says in his courses. He's developed a branch of NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, called energetic NLP, which focuses on the transformational energetic work, including the development of intuition and healing. He talks about the beliefs of today. He's reminding the participants that what we believe to be truth today may change as we learn and experience new things, and it's an incredibly important principle. We live in a time in history where the pace of change has never been greater. Things which appeared to be the work of an overactive imagination in books or films have become reality. Science, technology and our understanding of quantum physics are moving on at an incredible pace. More and more people have recognised that they're spiritual beings. They understand the importance of owning their power and realise that with such awareness comes responsibility, not only for themselves as individuals, but also for their communities and the world at large. Some of you watching this programme may already have a well-defined appreciation of yourself as a spiritual or energetic being. You may be tuned into your intuition and use energy in your work as a therapist or healer. Others of you may find yourself surprised at the synchronicities which occur. Be fearful of trusting your intuition and be very surprised when someone you're thinking about suddenly phones you. Joy, abundance and fulfilment are all possible when you're at one with the universe. Wayne Dyer urges us to let go of ego and to be our true selves, to access our inner wisdom and have faith in the goodness of the spirit and the firm belief that we're always connected to it. I'd like to share with you my beliefs of the day, my take on why it's so important to embrace ourselves as spiritual beings and to step into the power that's offered when we are at one with ourselves and the universe. During the last century, we've seen more and more places ravaged by war, greed and corruption. Weapons of mass destruction are poised and waiting, and we live under the threat of them being used. As a result, many people are living in fear and have a sense of lack. The malaise such fear generates has spread far beyond the borders of war-torn countries. The constant barrage of negative news on a daily basis spreads a sense of powerlessness and overwhelm. Fear and stress impacts negatively on our physical and our mental health. Unless there's a significant and speedy change, our beautiful planet will no longer be able to sustain the human population, which is growing at an incredible rate, as we use up or spoil its natural resources. We're in the middle of a paradigm shift in consciousness. It's fundamental and it runs deep. It has the capacity to expand our horizons and to bring a more loving and positive way of being. The shift in consciousness acknowledges the empowerment of the divine feminine. It's referring to the energy rather than the gender. We've reached a time in our development when the universal balance is moving towards an elevated, non-judgmental state of being. It's no longer about ego and separation, but coming together from a place of love. It requires us to be in a state of awareness which tunes in to our inner wisdom. It's heart-centered and connected to our higher self. Both men and women can be connected to their divine feminine energy. It's hugely healing and powerful, and it's never been more needed. The matriarch in any family or community has always been an important role. Their wisdom and experience offering stability and a sense of community have been the central pillar of society. In modern times, with the vastly increased mobility of people, the role has become somewhat less defined, but I believe no less important. There's a growing sense that what we're witnessing is an important development, the rise of the spiritual matriarch. It was reported that whilst he was talking with a panel of Nobel Prize winners, the Dalai Lama said, "Western women will save the world." There is no doubt that the role of women in society has been revolutionised in the last century, particularly in the Western world. Better education, access to roles of status and decision-making are now available in ways which previously seemed impossible. There's a growing appreciation that women can be excellent negotiators, ready to find a win-win resolution. I believe the United Nations always include women at the negotiation table, as it's more likely that a successful resolution will be achieved. Embodying the divine feminine means being in touch with our emotions, having a great sense of empathy, an absolute awareness of how our actions and words, or lack of them, impact on others, and a desire to support and empower. Research has shown that in general, women are more likely to display these attributes. However, men are just as capable if they choose to be. My view is that it's the divine feminine energy and how both women and men engage with it is what will make the most difference. The role of the spiritual matriarch requires strength of purpose, the realization that their purpose in life is to be of service, and ongoing desire for spiritual growth, a lack of ego, actions which are driven by love and the capacity to engage others. If you've been attracted to this series, I believe that you're being called to join forces with others to make a positive difference in the world, to be a spiritual matriarch. I believe that the combination of the empowerment of the divine feminine energy and the rise of the spiritual matriarch has the capacity to stem the tide, to offer a more humane, caring and compassionate approach. There's a growing body of people, women and men, who are embracing their power and who are working towards a better world. These are the people who bring light and a sense of possibility into the dark depths. They come from a place of love which is tough, resilient, and determined to make a positive difference, to stem the tide of fear. We live at a time when many of us are being nudged into thinking there has to be a different way of being, one which is built on tolerance, equality, strength, and compassion. There's a definite sea change, and many are feeling the call to be involved in making the change a reality. How we nurture, educate, and encourage the children who are coming into the world will have a profound impact on whether we achieve sustained and positive change. Family values must be aligned with the values that will support a change in the broader society and the world as a whole. It's vital that those values are modelled by parents, caregivers and teachers if the next generation are to internalise and adopt them. Many youngsters being born now appear to be operating at a different, higher energetic vibration. They're more aware, seem to mature more quickly, embrace technology, and have a knowing. How often have you heard a child described as an old soul? They often look on to events with eyes which seem all-knowing. Many children are struggling to deal with life. They're being diagnosed with autism, Asperger's, ADHD, dyspraxia and the like. They appear out of kilter with the world, and parents and school find them incredibly challenging. There appears to be a significant mismatch in their energies and a lack of tolerance to modern-day living, resulting in sensory overload and difficulty concentrating and fitting in. One also has to question what's causing the tidal wave of mental illness affecting youngsters as they struggle with poor self-worth, stress and anxiety. As adults, living from a place of fear and stress have a devastating impact on our immune system and sense of self-worth, and the impact is even greater for youngsters. Giving your child the space, time, and opportunity to voice their fears is important, as is taking responsibility for your own emotional state, and they'll take their lead from you. For most new parents, the arrival of their baby fills them with joy and an overwhelming desire to do their very best for their child, to support them into growing into great human beings. The challenge is, no child arrives with a manual, and it's therefore inevitable that there'll be times when you get it wrong. I believe the priority is to teach your child that they're loved, even when you don't approve of their behaviour. Help them know that they're enough, that they have choices, but that every choice comes with consequences, and that they must take responsibility for those choices. And doing so will give them a firm foundation for life and for spiritual growth. Humanity is constantly evolving, and the children entering the world now are more open to new ideas which may feel challenging to parents who've experienced a very different upbringing. Developing your spiritual awareness and aligning your energetic vibration to your child so that you can approach these changes without fear or judgment will help you support your child in their own spiritual growth, enabling them to fulfill their true purpose with confidence. There is tremendous pressure from school and society for your child to achieve. For the most part, these achievements are measured within a very narrow range of criteria, most commonly academic performance. Children in the Western world have never been tested and measured so acutely. It's also really important for parents to encourage and to validate the accomplishments of their children that stand outside these narrow performance indicators. How kind, thoughtful and caring they are, their creativity, their empathy and resilience, their capacity to embrace new things, to encourage others and to appreciate the natural world are all vitally important. Parents have a significant role to play in supporting and encouraging their children to aspire to be the best version of themselves that they can be. To do that requires parents to set out the core family values they want their children to live by and to show by example the behaviours required to embody them, to walk their talk. Over the past few years, it's been interesting to notice how many people feel an affinity with nature. Nature offers a great antidote to the hectic pace of life, but I think there's far more at play here. I was watching a programme last night about the worrying number of teenagers who are on antidepressants. Hundreds of thousands of youngsters are on pills which have been proven to have less effect than a sugar pill placebo. Many of these drugs increase suicidal thoughts, often with disastrous results. The doctor involved decided to try out a different approach, and this involved wilderness therapy. Being out in nature was an important part of the treatment, and there was no doubt that those involved gained huge benefit from the experience. There's been a significant amount of research which demonstrated beyond all doubt that gardening, looking after animals and being involved in conservation projects can be incredibly healing and energising. Having an affinity with the natural world, immersing oneself in the garden, walking in nature, sitting by or being on the water, all have the capacity to ground us, to help us feel more connected and in tune with ourselves. Spiritual awareness brings with it an understanding that we need to stop taking our beautiful world for granted. We have to preserve and husband the incredible planet and its resources if it's to sustain us in the future. The profligate waste of resources and unthinking behaviours will destroy the very thing which supports life. Things have to change, and each and every one of us has a part to play. You may feel that there's nothing you can do, but this is far from the truth. Each separate act may feel minuscule, but collectively it has the power to make a significant difference. Those of you who watch David Attenborough's series, The Blue Planet, will have watched how man is destroying the oceans by the tons and tons of plastic which find their way into the oceans every single day. We watched as one species after another demonstrated how our careless use of plastic was destructive. Since then, there have been groups of people who have made the decision that they would take action. They rejected apathy and inaction, even though the problem was global and enormous. They decided they would do what they could to make a positive difference. They're getting together to clear the beaches of potential threats to sea creatures. They're putting pressure on the political decision makers to change policies and take action to protect our oceans. Do you feel a call to nature or to the ocean? Are you listening to that call? Now, I've heard many people say that they no longer listen to the news as it's depressing, that they feel there's nothing they can do to change things. It's all too overwhelming and difficult. But I challenge that view. I believe that that leaves us in victim mode, powerless, and leads us nowhere. There is no room for apathy. It's time to put on our big girl pants and to challenge the status quo if we're to find a way to create and sustain a world of peace and where we value and support one another, where the rich diversity of the natural world is protected and we have a respect for this planet we call home. So what next? Everything we've covered in this series has been designed to support and enhance emotional and spiritual growth. Please don't think I'm preaching, as I too am on that same journey. There are days when we feel everything's an effort, and others when we feel invincible. No matter how spiritually evolved we are, we're having a human experience which can be challenging, messy, and downright painful at times. I don't have all the answers, but I have an unerring faith that we all have the capacity to live a fearless life, to be happy, successful, abundant, and fulfilled when we step into being our authentic, genuine best self. I know from the work I've done on myself and with the countless people that I've worked with that the approaches I've introduced within this series really work when they're used consistently. And I've made them easy to incorporate into daily life. At an individual level, you can make a difference, but when like-minded people get together to support, challenge, encourage, validate, and celebrate, the power of the collective is far greater than the sum of the parts. There is such strength in sharing. I recognise that so many people, particularly those who have a growing spiritual awareness, feel isolated. I also know that success is far more likely to be both achieved and sustained when we're part of a group who are ready to listen and to take an active part in one another's growth. This is my major motivation in founding the Thrive Together Tribe. It's a place where tribe members can find others who are on the same journey, who want to make a positive difference, and who are prepared to take action. You can find out more by visiting thrivetogethertribe.com. So let's look at some of the questions I've been asked about spiritual awareness and growth. Number one, I've been on lots of courses and read lots of books, but nothing has really made the difference I'd hoped for. What do you suggest? Many people look for the answers outside themselves. They want someone to tell them the answers, to do it for them. However, Spiritual development is all about working on you. Success will only be achieved if you take sustained action. When others do it for you, it may last for a little while, but it's unlikely to be internalized and sustained. It's the internal work, which is intensely personal, which will make the difference, one which will be sustained over time. Number 2, how can I be spiritually aware and yet feel incredibly irritated by others? Well, it might sound strange, but there's a gift to be found when people push your buttons. When you see things you don't like in others, spiritual growth comes in the recognition that they are presenting you with the very things you don't like in yourself. It takes honesty and strength to be prepared to see ourselves in that way, but therein lies the gift. Number 3, isn't spiritual awareness all woo-woo and a bit pink and fluffy, all lovey-dovey, but not reality? Well, that's what some people believe, and I know there are all sorts of theories, practices and ways of being which include the wacky, the weird and the downright absurd. We each have a different definition of spirituality. Mine is far from pink and fluffy. It requires strength, power and commitment. It's about living a fearless life with compassion, wanting to be the best you can be and to help others step into their power too, so together we can make a positive difference. Making peace in your own world by healing the relationship with yourself first, then with your family, and then with others. The next step is to look for how you can make a positive difference within your community, and so on. Like a stone being thrown into a pond, the positive impact just ripples out. This is my aim with the Thrive Together tribe. I'd like to leave you with some thoughts to round up the series. Spiritual awareness and development is not an accomplishment, but a lifelong journey. It's a way of life. You're a powerful being when you step into being your authentic, genuine best self. It's time to let your light shine brightly. Don't underestimate yourself. You have the capacity to make a significant difference to the quality of your own life and of those around you. When you join forces with others who are equally determined to make a positive difference, the possibilities are endless. It's time to take up the mantle as a spiritual matriarch, to be genuinely you. Want to learn more? Grab a copy of my #1 best-selling book, Thriving Not Surviving, the 5 Secret Pathways to Happiness, Success and Fulfilment, on Amazon or wherever good books are sold.